Oh. Hariom and greetings from Portland. How many of you love money by a show of hands? Don't lie. Those who love money, particularly investing, then I'm guessing, because I have no relationship with this, I'm guessing that they study what Warren Buffett does. Wherever he invests money, they invest money. Wherever he doesn't invest money, they don't invest money. You're all here for a running workshop. Here I'm giving you investing techniques. Warren Buffett is someone whose experiences, this creates a trend. As I travel and teach how to be happy through Chinmay Mission and other organizations, I've observed that the succession or the success of organizations that are focusing on happiness, whether Chinmay Mission or otherwise, this success will come by relationship building. As a generation becomes younger, newer, etc., it is a relationship by which they will come in, stay in, and grow. And the reason I'm sharing this insight is because our mentorship Sangha is a pioneer in this relationship building. Our program, which commenced when society needed this most, when people were isolated, feeling lonely, so came our mentorship Sangha. And year after year after year, this has been successful and is growing to other facets of our community. Zooming into our wellness workshop tonight. When I was growing up, my parents spoke to me in Hindi, and I naturally responded in English. They taught me Hindi, I taught them English. That's why I did it. It was out of compassion. They used a term which I really liked, and that was swasthatha. What does swasthatha mean? Healthy. They wanted my sisters and I to be healthy. By engaging in swasthatha, practices to be healthy, this helps one in a deeper way. One starts to grow into aswartha. What does swartha mean? Selfishness. Aswartha, not being selfish. And another word for that is happy. Those who are healthy have a greater chance, a greater propensity to be happy. And this is why in our community, our running from the mind facet of our community, which is in its 8th year now, our slogan, one of our slogans or descriptions is a community of seekers for health and happiness. The health is the trigger to happiness. I am very happy that this program goes on year after year. And I was just checking how many have registered. In just a short period, less than a month, more than 130 seekers have registered to pretend to complete a half marathon by September. This is the most seekers that we've ever had who have joined this program. And I like long distance running. I very much feel this is a key to being happy. So I'm welcoming everyone to our Running from the Mind community, specifically this wellness workshop, which is showing the connection between health and happiness.
Hariom, Sumanji, Hariom, fellow seekers. We are so excited for tonight's wellness workshop. Thank you all for joining us. As Vivekji mentioned, we do have Sumanji and some seekers here tonight to speak to us about their wellness journey. their physical wellness journey, and also their experience with running from the mind. And so with that, I will bring up our first speaker. We will have Sumanji, Pratik, Akila, Theos, and Vaidehi speaking tonight from the Running from the Mind community. So with that, I will bring up our first speaker. As a student, Sumanji always strived to find happiness, leaving medical school in hopes of achieving more fulfillment through a career in IT. Sumanji found himself still wondering what it meant to be truly happy, truly independent. It was when he attended his first satsang that he was introduced to Vedanta and met Vivekji. Convinced and compelled, Sumanji joined the 2-year residential Vedanta course in Trinidad under the guidance of Swami Prakashananda. Sumanji now lives in Pittsburgh and serves Chinmaya Pittsburgh through various classes and study groups. And with that, I'll hand it over to Sumanji.
How are you? Thank you for sharing that. And my gratitude to everyone for allowing me to join this community. This is the first time I've been with everyone here. So grateful. Everyone's journey to physical and mental wellness is different. When I think on my own, it began in university, long before I was involved with self-development and our spiritual heritage. And it had nothing to do with health. Like, let me just be real with you, okay? I wasn't like, oh, I got to look after my heart, my blood sugar, my cholesterols. I didn't know anything about that. It was about being and feeling attractive. Yeah, that's it. And it was that for quite some time. Really, until my journey with self-development began, it was through this association, the purpose changed. It evolved. Whatever the reason you begin or are beginning, all that matters is the first step. Why? Because you are here. We are here in a community whose purpose is clear. The pursuit of peace through self-development. When I think on physical wellness, when I think on our running from the mind community, it makes me think of 3 C's and 3 D's. And I think many of us would have heard Vivekji share these 3 C's before. No complaining, no criticizing, no crying, and balloons. I need to figure out how to turn that off. This has been a year of just these emojis. And if you've joined Vivekji on a yatra, these 3 C's form the golden rule right when it commences. During this outward expression of our inward journeys. And when we engage in physical activity, especially after being idle for so long, even before we begin, right? It's not like after we've laced up and we're on the road or doing whatever. It's before all of that begins. What is our mind doing? Complaining. There's a whole narrative. Are you sure? If you do this, not only do you have to find your shoes, you have to go find that pair of shorts and those clothes. Then you're going to have to do an extra load of laundry. If you leave now, it might get dark before. You might need some reflective gear if you're going to be outside moving at this time of day. Everything possible to not do it. Every reason to complain. Then finally, I'm seeing wash my hair later, right? Anything until you cross that threshold. Then you cross the threshold from inside to outside, right? You're on the road. You're still not there yet. Your mind is saying, if you turn around now, That imprint in the couch cushion, it's still there. It's waiting, welcoming you. Just stop now. It's not too late. And in the back of your mind, as your mind is complaining, yelling, all of these reasons, there's a quiet voice whispering, keep going. One more step. You can do this. That quiet whisper is our intellect. Every time we check the complaining mind, we strengthen that whispering intellect. And when we don't check those complaints, they devolve into criticism, which devolves into crying. And those three C's, they have three relatives. These are those three D's: discomfort, distortion, and dejection. The more we own those complaints at the first signs of discomfort, which when we begin, there are many, right? Our ankles are hurting, our legs are screaming, our arms are like, what is happening? Why are you moving like this? We usually just sit. The more of this unchecked complaining, the more distortion we experience at the level of our minds. And the idea of taking the next step, it gets blown out of proportion, becomes a huge obstacle. That distortion, in conjunction with more and more criticism, it leads to that cry or that dejected intellect. I can't exercise. I'm not able to do this. Why even bother? Physical fitness, that's for everyone else, okay? I'm just weak. I know, maybe I'll get a few extra years at the end of my life, but this is fine. I'm enjoying. Just don't do it. This is our intellects. Dejected. And I'm saying this in jest. And when we think about it through the lens of physical wellness, it doesn't seem like that's a big deal, perhaps. But when we expand the scope from just our physical wellness to that of our mental wellness, to self-development, to our community's purpose for peace, it's totally relevant. Physical wellness is the opportunity to strengthen that intellect, to reverse those roles so it's not the mind yelling in complaint, it's the intellect roaring with direction, with clarity, with conviction. With self-development, physical wellness fits perfectly into that equation Vivekji shares with us. Challenge plus purpose equals training. What are we training? This instrument, the mind, the intellect, to be more present, more directed, a tool to be managed by us rather than overwhelm us. One of the classes Vivekji teaches is called The Highest Vocation. Yes? We've heard of this. Some of us dream of it. One day I will sit in this class. Yes, yes, one day, the highest vocation. This is that guided meditation practice. Yes? But to engage in something like this requires intense preparation, prerequisites. If we think on this pyramid, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what every human needs to be fulfilled, the first three parts, or the biggest part of this pyramid, is food, water, shelter. At the top, the smallest part of this pyramid is self-actualization, enlightenment. Now you think, to try and talk to someone about self-development, about enlightenment, about the purpose of your life is peace, when they're hungry, when they're thirsty, they don't have access to clean water, they don't have money to make ends meet. This is just silliness. They won't be receptive to this message yet. Those prerequisites need to be met before these higher messages can be received. The idea here is if our instrument at the body, mind, and intellect, if they are uncomfortable, if they are noisy, if they are misdirected, sitting for 1 minute of meditation is not possible, even when it's being guided by such an awesome personality as Vivekji. These are our prerequisites. They are necessary. Physical wellness with this purpose in mind is the first step. When we practice checking those 3 C's and those 3 D's of our own volition in a controlled way, like running, like joining our running from the mind community, when faced with them in an uncontrolled way, which is that world we step into every day, we begin to rise to those challenges rather than succumb to them. We do this with quiet grace and balance. And when we do, we register for the highest vocation. Right? Cool. Thank you for this opportunity to share. How are you?
Hari Om. I'm Pratik Mishra from Milwaukee, and I have been part of the Running from the Mind community for 8 years. So, right from the inception, when it was started and running with Vivekji, I cannot thank him enough for continuing to support this community and also inspiring our mentorship group to join as well. It's just been a pleasure. I'm full of gratitude. So, what's the purpose of this community? As Sumanji really outlaid the whole outline, I just wanted to share we're always running towards something or after something. We are running towards, as Vivekji says, prosperity, power, possession. We are even running late. But our next destination is always pulling us and our minds, and we seem to be naturally inclined to follow them. However, as Vivekji aptly named this community, Running from the Mind, it is actually the best way to connect to what we are perpetually trying to do, which is health and happiness and even peace. So, what does running do to the mind? That's a great question to understand. When we start to run, first thing we notice when we take the first step, as Sumanji said, we also hear our first breath. The breathing can be very irregular and it's very loud when we are out of shape. So that itself is very scary. As the mind notices that one is running, it tries to start asserting control over the body. Doubts come in. If I'm doing this correctly, if I'm having the right shoes, am I running too fast? Which direction I need to go? What do I wear? What watches I need to buy? All those things start coming in. But however, the mind is starting to take the role of the guardian, for it is the generator of our thoughts. Thus, it really starts our journey towards the mind over matter, which is our body. So more thoughts come, and many positive and negative thoughts may come. Many incomplete thoughts come when we are running, and some empower us to keep doing what we are doing, and others can actually derail our run as well for several days, weeks, months, years, that we may not get back to it. However, upon deeper inspection, which we don't realize right away, that when we start to run, our minds actually acts as it is always acting in all other actions. Any other challenges we give it to it, prepare for an exam, making that difficult phone call, proposing to somebody, or reaching out to a friend, it's always going to act in the same way. So does our minds have a certain propensity in the way it reacts to the challenge we give to it? And running can help us understand our minds. So when we can see this, we start to see ourselves better and our journey towards self-reflection starts. And once we get slightly more comfortable with our running, we can use the act of running as a site of self-reflection. Our bodies are in perpetual motion amongst the early morning stillness of the trees, the earth, the sky, the birds. We start to connect ourselves to our inner stillness and silence while our bodies are in perpetual motion. We start to really see the peace and appreciate all our actions as we connect to our deeper selves. This is what we practice in the past years. As Vivekji said, no headphones, nothing, no music, no devices. And so we are able to actually see our minds and reflect better and not drown into the dependencies of music, speed, goals, how far I can run. You know, when we start to do that the first time, we are always trying to hold on to something, like a new swimmer who's always looking for the wall. But this is what we are doing with our running too. We need all these things to start running. But as Vivekji has stated, it actually leads to swadhyaya, or reflection, which actually can help us understand our swabhava, which is what we are naturally inclined to do, which then leads to more possibilities of connecting to our responsibilities. And thus, when we then perform our act of running with commitment towards evolving ourselves, we come really close to the journey of getting to our true self. And so this year, Vivekji has introduced Gayatri Mantra, which I'm sure will give all our sadhana new heights, even to the new seekers or the old ones, or advanced seekers, for lack of a better word. We don't like old word in our community, right? So Gayatri Mantra, if chanted with utmost sincerity itself, has benefits for everybody. To me, it helps me to feel connected to everything around me in the most fascinating way. Many of my friends who run 100-mile ultramarathons speak about the runner zone. You've all heard that word, right? But our community, we are always in the runner zone, which is that we are always really connected to our true self as we step out, as we take our first step, as we take our first breath, and really don't need to do that extreme form of running to be out there. Nothing seems impossible when we start running. However, for those seekers in this class or anywhere who are joining later, if it's your swadharma to run those extra miles, please do so, and we'll be all behind and we'll cheer you up and celebrate with you as well. That's all. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Akila Narayanan. I live in Fairfax, Virginia, and I have been with this Running from the Mind community for the past 3 years, so relatively newbie as compared to the previous speaker. So I was introduced to this thanks to my music teacher, Anuradha Pajur, who's a seeker, who's pretty active in the Chinmaya Mission community. So I may not go that deep into the mental and the physical connection. I'm still trying to reach that. But what helped for me personally was being part of this community since Anuradha introduced us. I know our speaker who's coming on ahead after me is also going to talk about that. We were all part of the same group. It really helps us and kind of keeps it going, keeps the motivation going. And I was kind of really surprised when I completed it the first year, because I did not think that I could do the whole thing without listening to music, just, thinking and reflecting and completing a half marathon. That was like a big achievement for me personally, just, evolving to reach that. So really thank Vivekji for that, because that's something which I do not think I could have ever attempted previously. So obviously we came back again last year, and this is our 3rd year. And what really helps as far as training goes is, I know we can always say some, oh, today the weather's not good, my knee's paining, or, I don't feel like running. and in our group we do, we're not always running, we do a walk run, so any people of any level could do it, so there's no judgment whatsoever. Oh, I'm running so fast, or I've done this many miles and this many minutes. There's nothing like that in our community, so it really helps us. The important thing is to set aside a time, or find a time really that you'll say that there'll be no excuse from that. And for me personally, what worked out is, because I have kids who go to school, college, etc., I just find that the morning time really worked out for me, that I could do from 6 to 7, or it kind of set a time that really helped me go through this. And incorporating the other challenges of the other aspects of physical health also work, especially, tracking food. I feel when I eat light, I have so much more energy to do the next day. I know runners eat, carb loading and all that, but that doesn't really work for me. There are a lot of things, but just eating healthy really helped me stay focused on going through this. So I think that's very important. And I'm personally a spreadsheet kind of person, track everything. So I just think that tracking even meditation, right? I track, how many minutes have I meditated today? I find that helpful for me to continue that. Okay, if I tick everything, I have a check mark on all of that, I have yeses on all of that, like I just feel motivated to do it the next day. So I just thought that these are a few things which I thought will help the fellow seekers who are new to this community, who want to try this out. With that, I'll hand it over to the next speaker. Thank you.
Hari Om, I'm Vaidehi. As a runner and seeker at Chinmaya, it gives me immense pleasure to be here and chat with you all today. My running from mind journey started 3 years ago, thanks to the group that Anu Pajur from Virginia has been leading and mentoring. We have developed great friendship and camaraderie with each other, not just Vedanta classes. We now spend time together as a group, hiking, running, and doing a lot of other activities. Let me start with my physical and spiritual journey in this training. I look at it in two phases. One during my initial Navy half marathon race 8 years back, and the other when I started running from the mind 3 years back. I want to highlight the similarity and differences from these two experiences and why I choose running from the mind for this fall. When I started running 8 years ago, it is all about physical training to build endurance and strength. The goal was to complete the 13.1 miles at a trained pace. I got my Garmin watch, headphones, and a lot of other gadgets to be on top of everything. Signing up for the race was a huge commitment, and keeping up with the training plan was the way to make progress regularly and consistently. So my personal best was based on finish time. When I look back now, though I ran the race in DC, I don't recall or remember what happened around me. I seem to be fixated on my watch, pace all the time. There was immense pressure comparing pace, finish time, and the personal best. Now comparing this with training for running from the mind, shifting from only physical training to mindful running, I had to unlearn my previous half marathon training. Giving up my Garmin watch for runs, just listening to my body clock was one. And the second one was giving up tracking directions with GPS, running in my neighborhood trail multiple times for training. This way, I already know my mile markers based on the location. I didn't need a GPS to track the distance or for direction. I also stopped complaining about the boredom of running around the same track. I genuinely started enjoying this type of run. And the third one was giving up headphones and listening to music, was replaced by chanting Gayatri mantra to keep me focused. So outcome of the three changes that I made for running from the mind from my previous only physical training was phenomenal. I felt more connected with the inner self. What I realized in the last 3 miles of finish line is that running is more a mental exercise than a physical one, requiring us to dig deep to understand how our mindset affects how we feel in our bodies. Also, the running from the mind helped me in the pursuit of my genuine personal best. This time, comparing with my Navy half, my genuine personal best was not based on my finish time, but my holistic journey of mind and body. So now looking at other aspects that go into physical health, firstly, nutrition. Nutrition is key to make sure we balance running and physical health. So especially for vegetarians, we have enough proteins. I also try to follow intermittent fasting as far as possible. Have dinner by 6 p.m. and first meal by 10 a.m. That is one. And I also have a vegetable juice and coffee. Next is hydration. Everyone's metabolism is different. So I alternate between water and IV and figure out the right amount of fluid. So you're not overhydrated or underhydrated during long runs. Next is injury. That's something we try and avoid. The best way is to listen to your body, allow enough time to take deep stretches after every activity. For every hour of physical activity, 10 to 15 minutes of post-activity stretches really work well. This is one way to reset our bodies. And sometimes icing and resting helps in overcoming strenuous training. And about challenges and overcoming them, initially motivation was a huge challenge. What worked well for me is to sign up with a friend and do all the practice runs together. That way, when someone is going to show up at the door early in the morning, there is no way you're going back out. In between, I also had to undergo a surgery. So bouncing back from that took some time, but it's definitely doable. I slowly started increasing my distance or pace by 5 to 10% every week so I don't overdo or get injured. I would recommend this for everyone starting new too. Now, run walk is part of my life. If I don't do it for a couple of days, people around notice and ask me to get on my shoes. I step out for my run, walk, hike almost every day, snow, rain, or shine. Hari Om.
Howdy, everyone. My name is Theo Stimulus. I'm based out of Chicago. I have been involved with the Running from the Mind community for about 4 years now. I'm also part of the Mentorship Sangha community. And for me, what I would like to discuss or share is the interdependence between self-development and physical health. I mean, this for me is most prominent, especially with the Running from the Mind community. But I believe I first discovered this, I would say 2 decades ago, when I was serving in Southern Belize with a program similar to the Peace Corps. And I was living in community. We were committed to spirituality and self-development. And because we were living a very simpler lifestyle, running was the only thing or the only form of physical activity that could be easily accessed. And I fondly remember running alongside the ocean and seeing the sunrise and just feeling the oneness, feeling the connection with nature. And I believe many other seekers will share that similar sentiment, especially through the Running from the Mind community. If you run outdoors and you feel just God's grace bestowing upon you and the oneness as you run across a trail and feel the connection to the breeze. So that is, I would say, the beginning of when I started to recognize that there is an interdependence between self-development and physical health. Now, I would say that my physical health journey has, wavered in many regards and vacillated, very much like my journey with spirituality. And it's important to note that growing up, even though I was heavily involved in athletics at a young age, I quickly stopped thinking of myself as an athlete. And a lot of that has to do with my brother, who was a Division I ice hockey player in Providence, Rhode Island, of all places. So needless to say, this comparison about who was really an athlete really had an impact on my perception of whether I could be athletic. And, I'll throw in the fourth C that Sumanji talked about earlier today, and I would say no comparison. I think often when we begin our journey, whether it's for physical health or spiritual development, we often compare. Well, I'm never like this person, or I'm never like that person. Well, maybe not right now because you're starting your journey, but that's not to say that you can't be at some point. And so for me, this sense of identity is incredibly important when we think about silencing the mind and pursuing, whether it's physical health or any new challenge that is bestowed upon us. Identity is key. And the more chatter, the more noise that comes into your mind, the more negativity that arises, that is your ego. That is the mind's noise. And that's why we need to pursue training, whether it's in the physical realm or the spiritual realm or elsewhere, to silence that mind, right? To demonstrate what your truly potential is. And so, I think it's so critical that we continue to recognize that our identities are so limited if we truly believe in God, if we truly have faith. But we need to push ourselves beyond that. And if we think we're special because, we haven't run a 5K before, not many people have, there's many other people in the world that haven't done something for the very first time, but they take that first step. And so the other thing I would just add is, even the highest performing athletes in the world have struggled with their self-confidence, with their identity. In fact, Kobe Bryant created the Mamba mentality when he was at his low. And the whole theory behind that idea is just to be better than yesterday. And I think I challenge everyone to embrace that mindset. If we can all just be better than yesterday in our physical health, in our self-development, we will all be amazed at the potential that is unlocked. And so for me, I mean, this is not the first half marathon that I've run. In fact, last year running in Cleveland with Vivekji and many other members of the community was just one of the highlights of my entire year. And it was amazing to do that. And it was because of community. It was because of taking that step. And so, I'll leave you with, starting small, one step at a time. James Clear talks about atomic habits, right? So break it down. If it's a 5-minute walk, make it a 5-minute walk. If it's a 10-minute run, make it a 10-minute run, but be graceful. And that consistency that other people have talked about is key. So, instead of boring you with, physical routines and training, I think it's just important for all of us to recognize that spiritual development and physical health are interrelated. And if we can start small, no matter where we are in our journey, we'll be amazed at God's grace and our ability to move forward and define our limitations, because that is truly what the Running from the Mind community and this entire CM Niagara community is really about. How do you go?
Thank you so much. Before I share anything else, I wanted to apologize to Sumanji for my mistake. Sumanji is in Providence and not Pittsburgh, so I apologize for that. But thank you so much, Sumanji and seekers that all shared this evening. It really was inspiring. I know running long distance has always been difficult for me, and I'm sure some others on here as well. So getting all those, listening to your journey and just listening to some of the tips that you've given this evening has really been inspiring. So thank you so much for being with us tonight and sharing that with us. Now we're going to break out into our discussions. How we're going to do this is if you have been assigned a pod leader, you will click on the pod leader you've been assigned to for the breakouts. If you have not been assigned a pod leader, please just choose any pod leader you would like to join this evening. And our discussion topic is going to be, what do you define as physical health? And what has your definition and expression of physical health changed with time? Again, it's what do you define as physical health, and how has your definition and expression of physical health changed with time? And we'll have about 10 minutes for this breakout.
And I will transition to Pratikji, who will share some thoughts about running from the mind, which is an awesome community that you've heard from today.
So firstly, I want to thank everyone for their sharings. It's such a wonderful community to think of, and I really hope that those who are joining today may not be part of it, please join. This community is supported by Yatinji, Kanchanji, Pankajji, and even Ananya and Vignesh and myself. So if any questions come, please reach out to any of us, any kind of questions which come, and logistics as well. If we can go to the next slide, please. Just quickly, we are really tracking these things. There's a tracker link which is in the next slide, and it's in our WhatsApp group. If you click on it, we can track. I've always felt that satsang, and as Vivekji says, satsang is greater than willpower. So as a community, if we are chanting Gayatri mantras, I think we're always almost at 18,000 already within a month. And this is not even everybody logging in. So all that connections we are forming is going to be really helpful. Visit the website. There is the link to the tracker as well as for registration. And just please share your inspirations and reflections. It keeps everybody going. It keeps everybody inspired. One day I'm having a bad day and I read a reflection, I'm just right back into doing what I need to do. So that's all I have. Thank you. Oh, one last slide is about Akron registration. As Theo shared, it is one of the most meaningful connections we have when we run as a community. So some more details will be coming out in July, August for registration. If you have your time blocked for that, the dates are on the website as well for the Akron Marathon. It'll be around those days. So final details will be coming out soon as well. That's all. Thank you.
The direction of the community and how this will be shared, I'm sure Vivekji will provide more depth to this formally through our Running from the Mind community. But in a very simple way, as we're chanting and we want to invoke and be inspired by this message, we chant Gayatri Mantra for our intellects to become most powerful that they are able to discern at the absolute level what is the real from the unreal, meaning what is changeless versus what is ever changing. And at the most practical level, what is in my long-term well-being to be happiness? And what is it that is short-term fleeting? And let me choose, let me prioritize that long-term peace. Gayatri Mantra is meant to invoke that strength of intellect. Let that be developed. Let that knowledge shine brightly within my personality so that I am clear. So when chanting this, if we're trying to remember literally each word, that can be challenging while moving, while running. But you think, let me be clear about where peace lies, within, not without. Very simple.
Hariom, I think one of the biggest things is to start easy. you don't want to, I think when I was in college, actually, both my roommates were college athletes. So I felt like pressured. I was like, oh no, like they're running so much. And then I would try to run like they would. But my body wasn't used to it because all our bodies are built differently. So, and I would get injured. So I think the biggest thing is to, when you start, like to maybe set a schedule for yourself and say, oh, I'm gonna run like this many days a week, and I'm gonna run for this many miles. And like it's okay to start 1 mile, even 1 day a week, 1 mile, that's okay. Or one day, like 2 days a week, 1 mile, that's okay. But also including other things like yoga, stretching, cross training. So exercising other parts of your body. And then also because running is just, it's not just that I do running in one part of the day. Running from the mind, I like to say is 24/7 because the food that we eat, that's running from the mind. The amount that we sleep, that's running from the mind. What we do to socialize with people, maybe going on a hike instead of playing video games, that's also running from the mind. So restructuring everything in that way. So it's okay to like to start with smaller goals, but make fitness a more active. So maybe park a few buildings away and then walk to work or something like that, or take the flight of stairs instead of the elevator. Those small things, or walk to the grocery store, and you'll save gasoline and things like that. So yeah, I would say set a schedule and then build up. Hariom.
ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ